Right. So Orest is a general counsel at 1inch Network. So yeah, while we wait for Claudia, please
Sure.
introduce yourself.
Yeah, so hello, I am the GC at 1inch. I am the GC actually in the company since the beginning of the company being started. One of the companies in the network being started, and I am trying to support different products, which probably I will align more later. Different products in the network and also entities in the group, which is a more centralized part. Because as you know, 1inch network is probably, as you know, for you imagining the DeFi usually is two sides. It's a centralized part and decentralized ecosystem that you're trying to keep up, incentivizing community to be the part of it. I'm used to work with the Swiss traditional finance before joining crypto in 2016 a lot, but yeah, generally so.
Perfect. So we maybe Claudia has. So Claudia is our head of compliance. So hi, Claudia.
Apologies about the delay.
Yeah, I've already pre-introduced you, so please intro yourself, and we can jump into the agenda.
Of course. Thank you so much. Hi, Orest. We had a brief discussion earlier, but nice to meet you again. Okay, for the public. Hello, and thank you so much for being here. My name is Claudia Naiba. I work with Coinfirm. I am the head of the regulatory and training teams and basically in charge of compliance-related matters. Brief introduction regarding my background. I have over 10 years experience in anti-fraud and AML compliance, both in the fiat and crypto services. Now, prior to joining Coinfirm, I also worked for a financial intelligence unit. And that was quite an exciting time, to be honest, because I had the opportunity to see how exactly regulators and supervisory authorities conduct revisions of obliged entities. Okay, enough about myself. I would say that we should get started with the webinar and the topic at hand, which is DeFi services, a hot topic nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we start, please, guys, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat, and towards the end, we're gonna go to the Q&A. Claudia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Okay, so basically, let's start with the definition of DeFi services. Now, what exactly is a DeFi service? It represents a service that allows for users to conduct crypto transactions without controlling party. Basically, it removes the need for a controlling party. Also, a very good side of DeFi services is that all the fees that usually controlling parties have are removed. There is also no need for verification of the users. And unfortunately, this gives some leeway to criminals to have access to the financial system. Now, when it comes to the FATF, the FATF does not consider a DeFi application to come under their standards as a VASP, because the standards actually do not apply to underlying software or technology. However, there are some DeFi services that do qualify as VASPs. As the FATF has mentioned numerous times, self-proclaimed DeFi services does not actually equal that they are completely decentralized. And as thus, the countries where these businesses are incorporated must have certain verification processes in order to determine if the creators, owners, or operators or other persons who maintain control, to determine if such persons maintain control or sufficient influence in the DeFi arrangements. Because if this is identified as such, then that service does qualify as a VASP, and AML laws will apply to them, and thus such DeFi services will have to comply with them, meaning that they need to implement the same preventative measures as any other financial institution and VASP, including customer due diligence, record keeping, as well as reporting of suspicious transactions. Now, there's also one mention that the FATF has made, that if a DeFi service is indeed DeFi, is indeed decentralized, then a VASP should be a part of its services as a controlling party, basically, in order to have measures, AML measures implemented. However, from my experience, what I've seen is that more and more DeFi services, even if they are not qualified as VASPs, they do try to conduct some sort of risk assessments of the addresses that use their services. So in order to not allow criminals to access the financial system, they do provide such risk assessments. Now, we have Orest here, and he is a very important part of this discussion, because everything that I've mentioned is theoretical. However, he can actually provide us with some more with the knowledge regarding how DeFi services that are actually DeFi do apply such risk assessments. Now, when it comes to the risk assessments that are provided by DeFi services, I would ask Orest to provide us with more information on that. For example, before we jump into that, actually, Orest, would you be able to describe the services of 1inch and also what qualifies you as a decentralized finance service?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a very good question. You know, what is DeFi? Because you mentioned that DeFi is a very hot topic right now, but I would say it's a very hot topic since 2020, yeah, or even in 2019, or when MakerDAO started it, 2018. It is excited, you know, topic which is which kind of can bring a revolution to the traditional finance industry, into fintech, but. Yeah, actually, I think that, you know, to the FATF view, almost all DeFi platforms, they are still VASPs, like virtual asset service provider, because, you know, it's a very, I mean, to your point, you mentioned before that if the group of people or the entity have influence over DeFi DApp functionalities, then most likely it's a VASP, virtual asset service provider, that need to be licensed and follow the rules. And just to say also, which is DApp, you know, the DeFi DApp is usually the decentralized application, the decentralized protocol or set of protocols that interact with each other, which is you know, and then the broad term of decentralized finance. And it's a very good, you know, point of what it is, decentralized finance. You know, again, back to the point that decentralized finance is something that no people or entity have an influence or control over, and not gaining, you know, out of it on a day-to-day basis. And many DeFis, many projects that call them DeFi, and many projects probably that FATF think as DeFi being VASPs are simple DeFi projects, which is centralized finance. It is no difference from centralized exchanges, crypto platforms like Binance, FTX, or Coinbase, because by simply, you know, creating a protocol which is open source, and you having power over it by accessing to it or admin key, or holding the interface, or gaining, you know, gaining profit money on the day-to-day basis, makes you no different from Binance, which is you know, just crypto platform or the financial license institution that just by way of doing business have dealing with crypto. That's all. But DeFi and what 1inch is kind of different animal in terms of no one has control over protocols. No one except the community gaining from it. And yeah, I will give you an example. And a good example probably will be the 1inch setup, as I am very good familiar with, as that what 1inch is decentralized autonomous organization, which is a DAO, and which is a community project, which is the environment which is not backed by any legal entity or the group of people, because everything is in the any piece of code which is the part of the 1inch network is open sourced. Anyone can copy paste it and create similar product to 1inch called 1inch, and do whatever it takes, to make money of it or organize the community around it. And all the there is 2 point of access which can be used by the regulator or by the local regulator in the country where those 2 point of contacts are based at is the interface, the someone who has any relation to the domain address, to the interface. And the second is the core contributors, like core group of developers that started and created the different kind of smart contracts or decentralized application or open source ecosystem, which is the core part of all the products at 1inch. And it is very important that those 2 factors, they are not gaining the influence over the network or DeFi, which is I called decentralized network. In terms of, for example, at the example of 1inch, at the interface level, the interface or the domain address, which is not, you need to pay money for the interface on a day-to-day basis just to keep up with the Web 2.0 infrastructure. And for that, you need a centralized party who can just send money through wire for the domain provider. And for that reason, we created a non-profit organization called 1inch Foundation, which is not gaining at all, only is an administrative point of holding those life needed infrastructure, like a domain address, because IPFS system distributed, domain infrastructure is not efficient right now, and kind of scammy. It's a different topic. It's not secure, and this is also the main reason why we need those life needed traditional infrastructure still available in DeFi. So it's 1inch Foundation, which is not gaining anything at all, just holding the domain address and partly responsible for the grant program. By the way, if any of you here is interested in building up the efficient compliance tool or have any ideas on how to contribute to DeFi in terms of knowledge or tools that may be helpful to that, or microservices, you can always go to the 1inch and apply for the grant. And we really encourage the compliance part of it. I mean, the grantees applying for the grant, which is again, 1inch Foundation and core contributors that someone created the software that is the core infrastructure to the DeFi. And this is very important balance, when after the creation or deploying the contracts, the genesis event, and putting that into open source, you are not gaining from it. And you just doing all for the benefit of the network. What it was done at 1inch. So back in 2020, in 2019, we, the group of developers, the co-founders, they created and deployed the set of smart contracts, which is updated time to time, not just by 1inch Labs, which is a development company. It's a for-profit company that making money doing a software contribution, not just to 1inch actually, and to other DeFi protocols such as Balancer, Curve, collaborating with Uniswap. Like we always try to be engaged with the development, of audit or any kind of technical advice with all the other protocols. Protocols, I mean DeFi, dApps, DeFi, it's many names, yeah. And it's very important to have this balance of not influencing the network with the power you might have over it. And in terms of as all the administration rights to the community, to the try to organize the the proper governance at DeFi, which you can always track, and assess on to which extent the community and independent wallet addresses are engaged with it, and do everything in a good intent to make founders be only founders, creating something new and has no relation to the decentralized ecosystem they've been part of at the inception stage. Yeah, this is actually the point also to the grant program I mentioned before, that mainly was, for example, the core team, the initial team that started everything, is doing right now is just engaging random different developers to contribute in terms of different services to the OneInch network and to the existing services in terms of microservices and efficiency, and just keeping up this bubble to work in an efficient way. Did I miss answering on something?
No, actually, you made a very good point related to the development of this of the smart contracts, for example, because, for example, the FATF has mentioned that the developers of the smart contracts can be viewed as the VASP, basically. So as long as there is someone that can perform updates to the smart contract or the platform itself, that person or that entity that performs such updates and controls will be regarded as a VASP. So it's not the actual DeFi platform that will be considered a VASP, but the actual person or the entity that is performing those updates. This is something that the FATF is looking on providing more guidance on, because in recent discussions that I've had with the FATF, they were saying that they are looking at identifying developers and other entities that develop these smart contracts and provide updates to hold them accountable as VASPs. Now, for example, the smart contracts that are fixed, that cannot be changed, and the DeFi services that make use of them will absolutely be considered as DeFi services, and there would be no other party that would be considered a VASP. However, in the case where the smart contract is not fixed and can be changed or altered in some way or updated, then the person or entity who does perform such actions will be considered a VASP. What is your vision on this?
Exactly, I completely agree with you. And this is also why you need this community engagement, that picking up different software providers to help with and engage, can create specific random people to help keep up with the updates on new developments. And it should not be so straightforward in terms of who is going to develop, the existed infrastructure or create a new infrastructure. And this, as in centralized, just traditional business, someone and not the one who is updating that should make a decision on this update, by the third party. This is also, the sign of the decision making by the community is important, the first one. And yes, to your point, it's not just a risk in terms of WASP applicability, being the WASP or not being the WASP is important. And this is, to me, the most important part in terms of security. It is if you create an access to the infrastructure, the smart contract, which is responsible for the settlement, for voting, for being a relayer, which is just signing, putting your transaction into the blockchain, creating any kind of access to this code, you're creating a backdoor which can be hacked. This is why we also see so many hacks in the industry, is because of the sometimes even with a good intent, if you create the access just to update it more effectively, or just update it, you're creating this backdoor for the hacker, to take the funds at some point of time, because almost everything, is vulnerable. You just need to keep up with the security. And for example, 1inch protocols, almost all of them are not updatable. Yeah, it is the code which is created and deployed. If you want to change it, you need to create a new deployment, like a new infrastructure which will change and migrate the existing infrastructure. And this is the most important, actually, to me, in terms of security, because in the end, the regulation, we need that to make people use DeFi safely, and but the initial point is that you need to deploy safe. So, yeah. Yes, very good point. And also to add to the team of developers and to the risk assessment you mentioned, from the first question, is that we at 1inch always take this approach. And me personally, I think that even if a team of developers behind like the DApp, the protocol, the smart contract is deploying it, even without the backdoor, without the access, without upgradability, which letting people like trade, lend, borrow without like any intermediaries, just by interacting with each other. The team should be responsible for like those basic anti-money laundering tools. If you have the infrastructure, the technology available on the market, and if you know about that, and you should know about that as a team of developers. Like there is a lot of possible technologies like Coinfirm, that you can even use for that. Use this technology, integrate to the interface, to the protocol level. It's all like legal, you're just putting all the pieces together when you're deploying something. And I think that the point of FATF, sometimes you're not clear, on all the points. But the point of FATF is it leaves it up to the industry to implement appropriate tools, and if you're developers and you're deploying those protocols, even if you have no relation to VASP and the law does not apply to you, integrate those tools, put them, they anyway prevent, you just, from my experience, from the practical standpoint, because we integrated those steps, those different tools that prevent bad actors accessing the DeFi, by the nature of accessing, by the means of accessing the 1inch, and by the fact, I don't know if you know what 1inch is, like all of you, but 1inch is the aggregator to decentralized exchanges. So many volumes are going through 1inch on the daily basis. Also, what 1inch is the API for the aggregation. So most of the DeFi, which is on the market, they using 1inch API. So when you go to the MetaMask, you go to the other prominent players in the DeFi industry, they all based on top of 1inch API. Means 1inch, and by them or by their end users using, for example, those end API user platforms. 1inch automatically prevent even those end users, which is not directly accessing 1inch.io interface, accessing DeFi by just blocking and blacklisting their wallets. So yeah, my point.
More information regarding the type of risk assessment that you do, and for what type of situations, and what happens after you identify that an address, for example, is related to a high risk or illicit or prohibited activity.
Yeah, so we have an API integrated to the product, to the software and to the interface. So we do actually a double check even inside the 1inch and with our API users. what we do is that we receive an API. We have, obviously, we integrated a screening system when someone connecting the wallet to the DeFi, because DeFi works in a way when you just have an unhosted, you have your self-custody wallet, and you connect the self-custody wallet to the decentralized application. In a way when decentralized application immediately recognize your public address, your visible address, which you use to interact with the DeFi. And when at the point of connecting the wallet, before connecting, how One-Inch works is like before connecting the wallet and giving access to swap, lend, borrow, wallet, the API, the signal goes to our screening tool, which identifies whether a wallet is the ownership of a bad actor to the ownership of the sanction address, illicit activity system, terrorist financing, or the counterparty to that wallet. And immediately giving back the signal that the wallet is recognized or not recognized as a bad actor. And if it is recognized as a bad actor, there is no way that the wallet address can access and use the One-Inch infrastructure and many other infrastructures, because we integrated that on the protocol level.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that detailed description. So basically, once this type of links are found to sanctions, terrorist financing, and so on, you basically block the addresses' access to your services, and they cannot make use of your platform.
Exactly.
But being a decentralized service, there is no reporting involved there. So there is no reporting authority for you to provide information that this specific address has some links to this specific illicit activity, and this is what they have tried to do. Plus, there is no KYC involved.
Exactly. There is no KYC involved. There is no SARS reporting. There is no reporting obligations. We are not VASP, yes, but what we do as DeFi, we try to make a good in the industry. We experimenting with travel rule, with the compliance. We're not waiting for the for the rules for the industry wide solution even. Yeah. We just do whatever we can to make it safe, and we're also working inside the One-Inch because you mentioned there is no KYC. There is no KYC in DeFi, but we don't think that not having KYC is a problem, and we actually working in the company on some behavioral patterns that can help us precisely identify the wallet holders to the extent that we as an industry maybe even would not need KYC in the future. Yeah,
it makes sense. Plus, the regulations regarding DeFi services is still they are still developing. The FATF is the one that sets the standards. So regulators within each jurisdiction still don't know exactly what to make of DeFi services and how they should necessarily treat them because of this decentralized aspect. Well, our time has ended. I would like to thank Orest a lot for his participation. Your input has been extremely valuable, and thank you for providing insight from a DeFi services stance when it comes to risk assessment and also on the DeFi services in general.
Sure, pleasure of mine. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah. So,
not a problem.
Love the day all. Bye.
Bye, Orest.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I know that you have to jump off, so I'm gonna wrap it up.
Well, there is actually a question here that one of our viewers said, I would like
time for that.
Yeah, I will take a minute or two to reply to it because I find it interesting. So the question is it legal for an EU registered VASP to facilitate any crypto transfers to a crypto wallet where an owner is not known, and B, to a crypto wallet where the owner is unknown but not checked against sanctions? Well, when it comes to the legality of this, each VASP needs to perform verification. So VASPs are obliged entities. They need to perform verifications of addresses and what is to identify the risks with that specific wallet. Either if it's even if it's incoming transactions or outgoing transactions. I would say that it's where the owner is not known. Owner, I would assume that you are referring to perhaps either the authorized user or also the entity that is controlling that that address. When it comes to well, basically it would be a self-hosted wallet. It's not illegal for a VASP not to allow that transfer to be conducted. However, they need to perform verifications on that address to see if it has nexus to sanctions. Now, at Coinfirm, for example, we have a very good methodology in place where we can determine, even across hundreds of transactions, if an address has had at one point connections to sanctions, both the address itself or related to owners of that address or addresses that that address has received or sent funds to or from. So it's not illegal to send funds to addresses that are self-hosted, but the screening needs to be performed in order to identify if it has nexus to sanctions. Okay, I will have to drop off now. Thank you so much for your involvement today.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. It was very interesting discussion. It went so quick. So maybe we're gonna have another round with Claudia and Orest in the near future. But yeah, thanks a lot. You're gonna receive the recording, and we're gonna have it on our website for everyone who couldn't join. So you will be able to view it. Thanks, and see you next time. Bye-bye.